12,000 years ago, the land beneath London and Moscow was neither forest nor snowfield. Instead, an ocean of golden dry grass stretched from Spain across the Bering Strait to Canada. This was the Mammoth Steppe, the largest ecosystem in Earth's entire history, an Ice Age miracle. We always imagined the Ice Age as a lifeless frozen wasteland, choked by bitter cold. But the truth was the opposite. This steppe teemed with more giant herbivores than Africa's Serengeti. It was an empire of giants, where creatures weighing many tons dominated the frozen land. Yet, this seemingly invincible empire vanished, not by asteroid impact, nor entirely by human spears. It was devoured by something far gentler, a wave of green and an endless rain. To understand this empire, we must unlock its birth code, forged by drought and bitter cold. 20,000 years ago, at the Pleistocene peak, sea levels dropped 120 meters below today. Shallow seas like the North Sea and Bering Strait transformed into vast, fertile grass-covered plains. Together they formed an unbroken ecological supercontinent, stretching from Iberia to Alaska and the Yukon beyond. This was the largest continuous landmass in biological history, and drought was its secret engine. Massive ice sheets acted like giant dehumidifiers, trapping atmospheric moisture and keeping the air extremely dry. High-pressure anticyclones blocked clouds and rainfall, so forests could never take root on the steppe. Snow cover was pitifully thin. Herbivores only needed to brush it aside to reach the grass. The grass was not lush tropical green, but dried standing at the roots, becoming natural high-protein hay. Fossil stomach contents of mammoth mummies reveal this grass contained protein, rivaling the finest modern grains. The terrain was far from monotonous. Siberian permafrost kept the surface stable, nurturing endless needlegrass steppes. The Bering Land Bridge served as a highway where species from Asia and America converged and mingled. Southern mountain valleys offer natural windbreak shelter, serving as safe refuges for herds during rare fierce blizzards. This land ran like a perpetual engine, strong winds preventing snow buildup and sunlight fueling photosynthesis endlessly. But without its residents, this land would be nothing more than desolate, emptiness stretching forever. Nature needed powerful creatures, capable of reshaping the geology itself, architects of this frozen empire. The woolly mammoth was not a lost elephant, but a masterpiece shaped by 5 million years of evolution. Its tiny ears, just 1/15 the size of African elephants, minimized heat loss in freezing polar winds. Genetic studies revealed a special protein called TRPV3 that reduced skin sensitivity to cold, promoting fig fur growth. A hemoglobin mutation let mammals deliver oxygen to tissues, even at near-freezing temperatures, preventing limb necrosis. The mammoth's trunk tip had a unique finger-like structure that could pick tiny grass blades from rock crevices. Their spiral tusks, up to 4 meters long, swung horizontally to shatter ice, clearing food for smaller species. The woolly rhinoceros guarded its territory fiercely, using flat keratin horns as specialized snow shovels. A mummy found in Poland revealed extremely thick skin and a massive shoulder-fat hump for winter energy. The giant deer's antlers spanned 3.6 meters, requiring enormous calcium from the nutrient-rich subsoil. These antlers were a barometer of soil quality. When the steppe thrived, the antlers grew spectacularly wide. Steppe bison and wild horses were the unsung heroes, their millions of hooves compacting snow across continents. By trampling snow flat, they stripped its insulating power, letting brutal Arctic cold penetrate deep underground. This kept the permafrost frozen solid, safeguarding the very foundation upon which the entire empire rested. The nutrient cycle was astonishing. Mammoth and horse dung scattered nitrogen and phosphorus evenly across the soil. Without this natural fertilizer, dead grass would have smothered the seeds, blocking sunlight. Every spring, in Siberia, archaeologists found thousands of mammoth bones gathered at biological nutrient islands, not slaughter sites. Nature assigned different dietary roles. Mammals say tough bottom grass. Horses chose tender energy-rich tips above. Rhinos ate shrubs on slopes, while bison focused on aquatic plants in lowlands, maximizing solar energy use. But this empire of giants also attracted the ice ages, most terrifying, and finely tuned killing machines. The cave lion was the absolute ruler of strength, 25% larger than any modern lion alive today. Adult males weighed 400 kilograms, with broad chests and enormously powerful forelimb muscles, built for wrestling prey. They hunted in pairs on the open steppe, leaping onto bison backs to knock them off balance. Cave hyenas weighed twice as much as modern spotted hyenas, crushing bones to recycle calcium into the soil. Their constant pressure forced herbivores to keep moving, preventing overgrazing and protecting the grassland from degradation. Ice Age wolves were larger than modern wolves, but their most terrifying weapon was their cooperative pack intelligence. Then, in the long winter darkness, a new howl echoed, not wolves, but bipedal creatures, holding flint spears. Humans lacked claws and raw strength, but we possessed psychological warfare, fire, and devastating long-range weapons. We used fire to drive mammoth herds into natural traps, leaving 6-ton giants helpless and panicked. We hunted not just for food, but for bones to build shelters, fur for warmth, fat for fire. Yet a surprising balance held between predator and prey, keeping the herbivore population young and healthy for millennia. But nature's greatest trap was never the lion's teeth or the human spear. It hid in the atmosphere. This empire could withstand bloodshed, but it could not survive humidity. A silent green enemy was approaching. A mammoth steppe depended entirely on the rain shadow created by the enormous northern ice sheets. Drought forged a steppe, and permafrost maintained the balance, just enough summer meltwater for grass to grow. The grasses were not victims of grazing but active partners. Trampling stimulated their roots to grow deeper. Clearing dead grass lets spring sunlight reach new shoots faster, keeping the entire vegetation system thriving endlessly. But 12,000 years ago, this perfect cycle shattered. The great ice sheets began to melt uncontrollably. Enormous amounts of water poured into the atmosphere. The silent invasion of moisture had finally begun. It is a common myth that mammoths died because of heat. They had survived many warm periods before. Their true killer was not temperature, but the devastating rise in humidity that followed the melting ice. Melting ice reshaped ocean currents, pushing massive clouds of moisture inland over the once clear dry skies. Rain fell endlessly. Worst still, snow grew deeper, heavier, and wetter than mammals had ever known. 20 centimeters of snow was a playground. 2 meters of wet snow became a slow death sentence. The energy consumed by moving through deep snow far exceeded what little frozen grass they could still find. As the giants weakened, a green army invaded from the south, shrubs, mosses, and coniferous forests advancing relentlessly. This was a territorial war. Trees blocked sunlight and poisoned the soil, making it impossible for grass to regrow. Northern shrubs contained toxins. Bison and horses, eating them risked poisoning instead of gaining any real nutrition. The once glorious golden steppe was soon swallowed by damp, dark tundra and endless, impenetrable forests. When the grass disappeared, the dominoes began to fall. Horses and bison starved or fled to shrinking pockets. Mammoths and rhinos were split into tiny isolated populations, trapped on islands and in remote shrinking valleys. Inbreeding weakened their bloodlines. Genetic studies confirmed these final populations suffered devastating losses of diversity and health. With their prey vanishing, cave lions and saber-toothed cats also perished, too large for forest survival. Giant deer's massive antlers became death traps, tangling hopelessly in dense forest branches, sealing their fate forever. This was not a quick death, but a slow agony lasting thousands of years, inch by painful inch. Every patch of steppe was methodically devoured by the creeping green, the forest advancing like a silent tide. The last woolly mammoth drew its final breath on Ranjua Island roughly 4,000 years ago. While Egyptians built pyramids under the desert sun, the last mammoth died in a forest it could not survive. Its kingdom had become something unrecognizable, a wet, dark world where grassland giants had no place left. Today the mammoth steppe exists only in the frozen permafrost of Siberia, locked beneath the ice and soil. Occasionally a perfectly preserved mammoth mummy emerges from the falling ground, a whispered reminder from deep time. This collapsed empire teaches us a profound lesson. Even the mightiest ecosystem bows to the climate's balance. When the atmosphere changes, it reshapes not just temperature but the fundamental architecture of all living systems. The kings of the Ice Age are gone now, making way for the human world we inherited from them. But beneath the cold earth, those ancient architects still lie dormant, waiting for science to awaken their footprints. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you next time.